In today's video, I'll be showing you how I sewed up the Waves and Wild Pick and Mix. This is the bodysuit option with an envelope neck, long sleeves, and a fluffy fit, so it's great for cloth diapers. So if you're interested to see how I did that, just keep on watching. The first step, of course, is cutting out your fabric, and here I have a fat half of this dino fabric. That's just a different way you can purchase your fabric. It means that it is a yard in length, but it's not selvage to selvage width. It's cut in half widthways. So you can see here I have one selvage and over here it is not. And the way that I am making sure I've got my fold on the grain line is I have these dinos lined up so that all the way down this green dino's little toes are right on the edge. And then I love the pick and mix because I'm doing the envelope in size 3 to 6, and you want to cut a front and a back, of course, but you don't want to have like two pattern pieces. So you cut at the upper line for the back and on the lower for the front, and I've just cut it almost all the way off so that I can easily fold it back here, but I've also written on it to ensure that if it falls off, I know what that was. And I'm just going to use my washers that I've got from Home Depot as my weights, and then my rotary cutter, and cut these out. So since the pick and mix is so versatile, it can be a shirt or the bodysuit, and you don't have to have a whole bunch of full pattern pieces cut out to accomplish that. I just have the bottom of the shirt folded under, so these half circles line up with the bodysuit base. So here I have the back, and that means that I need to make sure up here I have the neck for the back, which is the higher one. So I have this flap up, and I have the circles lined up here for the back portion of the bodysuit. So that is one nice continuous piece. On to the front of the bodysuit. So I have the front bottom portion, and then again to illustrate here, this would be the t-shirt line, but I have it folded up so these circles can match here. I now have this folded down for the lower neckline for the front, and I'll do the same thing, weigh it down and cut. If I was doing a short sleeve for this line, I would have been able to fit it on the 1 yard length, but I want to do long sleeve because we're coming into winter here in the States. So I'm gonna just have to fold over another area to cut that out. Got caught a little bit there, so you always want to pull it away gently so you don't accidentally tug it and like alter your pattern placement. And then I forgot to mention these lines here are important to mark for where it crosses over later. So I want to take my Mark Be Gone, my washable water-soluble marker, and I will just open this here, and the back of my fabric is white, so that'll show up easily. I'm just gonna kind of put a dot, boop, and boop on both sides there. And then I'll lay this pattern piece back on the one I've already cut and mark that as well. An important thing to note here is the point on the tip of the sleeve. That is gonna help you later for the construction. So make sure when you're taping your pattern together and when you're cutting your fabric that you're not cutting over this. You wanna cut up so that when you open the sleeve, it ends up being a nice notch. That'll help for later. All right, so now we're gonna pin the strips onto our front and back pieces. So first we'll make sure which is which. So the lower one is the front. I'll start with that one. And then the bottom part, the shorter one, is for the front. So these have been pressed with wrong sides together. And then I have these strips of interfacing. You can also just use woven. I'm not going to iron it on. They just get slipped in and it stabilizes for the snaps. Because you always want to have, in my experience, at least 3 layers of fabric to hold the snaps on nicely so that the material doesn't stretch too much. It just makes it easier to snap them and makes it less likely that they'll rip out. So I'll take my shorter of the wider strips and then my front bodysuit, and I'm just going to pin right sides together with the raw edges all facing in the same direction. Alright, and I'll just do the same to the back. So I'm going to put this in first this time. You can always tell like how much the band has been stretched when you look at the back and you see how much extra of the main fabric. So the biggest stretch I have is here and here because that's where I have the little extra of the main fabric. And then over here it's hardly stretched at all. And then again, when you're putting the top one on, you're having an overhang of 1 centimeter or just under 1/2 inch. And you'll see why we're doing that when we get to the next step. Alright, so now I have both of these ready for my serging, and I'll be back to show you that. Okay, so it's been a couple hours, the baby's back asleep, and I finished serging on the neck and bottom band for the front and the back. Now I'm going to zigzag top stitch it down. I have a length 2.5 and width 4 for my zigzag, and I'm using a walking foot and a ballpoint needle. So I'm gonna stitch it down so that this area is up. So not down like this, it's gonna be flipped up toward the body. I like to just use the right foot as the guide and just go so that that's cruising along right there. I was careful to not stretch it while I was sewing, so it still has stretch and it's not already at its limit. Now it's time to attach the front and back and attach the sleeves. This is where it's important that we put those marks earlier. So I made the blue dots, and I'm gonna have the back over top of the front, and you know which is which because the front, the neck dips lower, and also when you're looking at the bottoms, the back has a much longer bottom. So anyway, they're both facing right sides up, and the back is overlapping the front. I'm gonna line up the blue dots, so there and there, and pin right through that. For different projects, I use clips or pins. For things where it's really fiddly, I tend to use pins instead of clips. I like clips for something that's just like long and straight, just to hold it together a little bit. And then the same thing over here. And now I'm going to take my sleeves, and remember the notches were important. So the notches are going to go on that blue dot also, which is now marked by a pin. So you lay it right sides together, which is this way. So you can baste this if you are a little bit unsure if you might slip. I like to live dangerously, so I'm just going to use lots of pins. So first I'm going to use that point right there, and I'm going to have it overhanging so that the actual, like where the curve would be, is on the raw edge of these, the body part. So holding carefully, and now I have 3 layers pinned together in that spot, which is the 2 blue dots and that notch. So now I'm going to go through and pin this nicely. And the overlap part doesn't reach all the way to the armpit seam, but of course the sleeve needs to get all the way over there. Okay, so that's half my sleeve pinned, and now I will get the other half. Oh, actually this reminds me, so I had sewed this on a little funky on the other side, which is why it didn't occur to me, but yeah, this is supposed to be sticking out, and so it's going to get trimmed off. That's why we had it hanging over. So just this part is going to line up right here with the sleeve, and then the extra centimeter of the band is that wiggle room. So again, this is going to line up here, and then I don't want this to be, sorry I keep getting out of the camera, I don't want this to be in, because then if it's sandwiched between like that, it'll be visible from the outside of the shirt. I want it here so that's cut off. So I'll go back and fix the other one in a moment here. Okay, and then so you can see this is sticking out here but not here, and that was an oversight. I do want this to be sticking up. So I'm having it line up with that, and then this corner is protruding, so that'll get trimmed off by the serger. So I'm gonna attach this and then I will do the other arm instead of trying to juggle so many things at once. Okay, so where I'm starting, it's just 2 layers, and then once my blade goes over here, then that signifies when I'm sewing 3 layers together, the front, back, and sleeve. And then I'm just making sure that this corner is not inside the layers. You always want to start turning a little sooner than you would think. Okay, I'm coming up on the next edge that I'm going to be cutting off, the end of the band, and I'm making sure that the corner of it is not sandwiched between the layers, between the front and back. Sometimes I use these tweezers. I think they came with, I can't remember if they came with this machine or if they came with my cam snap set, but I use them for that too. But anyway, so I'll just hold this that's getting trimmed off out of the way so it doesn't accidentally get sucked in and attached. Okay, let's see how we did. So when you look at it from the other side, that is nicely encased there. The other one is like inside here. So when we flip it around, you don't see the end. It's like nicely encased. It's fully inside there. All right, well, I hope that made sense. I don't think I explained it too well, but I will go ahead and do the other one and then get back to you for the side seams. I went ahead and did the same thing to the other sleeve, and now the final step of the main construction is to attach from the wrist down to the hip. So it'll be facing right sides together, and I'll pin well and feed it into my machine like this so that it's going in one continuous line. So I'm not taking a curve. I'm feeding it in to the serger like this, and as I'm getting here, I will turn this and this will be wrinkled so that I'm still doing a straight line like that. And I'll take extra care when I'm pinning so that the armpit is lined up, and I will have the seams facing toward the arm. Like so. All right, we did it. It looks really nice. So the last thing I like to do is tuck this tail up, and then I will do a straight stitch to tack this down. I just think it helps hide that little bulky seam a little bit nicer. So I'll do that to both sides. All right, so I've got the standard machine back out to hem the sleeves, and like so many of us, I really don't enjoy hemming tiny sleeves. I think that a good method is I serge around the edge so it creates an automatic guide, so that when I fold it in, I'm able to look at that edge. It doesn't roll, and it just makes it a little easier for me. So I'm halfway through zigzag stitch. Oh, you can't see because that light. I'm halfway through zigzag stitching the inside of the sleeve, fold it over like that. So I'll finish that and show you, and then we'll get on to the snaps. Here's those sleeves. So I'm putting on my last snaps here. I did the front first, and I did the male snaps here. I did the center one, and then I used my marker to mark equally on either side, did those two. And then for the back, it's gonna be folding up. So I'm gonna find the center here. That one comes up right here. So I will poke, since I want it to really just be matched up with that. And then goes on through. Little guy's awake and playing on his mat again. Trying to finish this all in one day during all his naps. And if you want a more detailed tutorial on the cam snaps, you can watch the end of my bandana bib tutorial. So I'll just do the same thing with the other two. Here is our finished product. So I'm really happy with the finishing touches on this one. It's all cotton lycra, including the band. And yeah, let me know if you found this helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos. Comment down below if you have suggestions on what else I should film. I'm gonna be doing the snap neck version tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to get that one out right away. And I will do a review of the metal versus plastic snaps as soon as possible. Happy sewing!